Today I'll be covering how to mod masks. This video will cover the general principles of how the mask system works, and I'll include some examples on how to basically consolidate or create abilities, but I won't be able to cover in one video, or at least in this video, things like creating abilities, such as, for example, creating Corey's role or Mark's dual machine guns. I'll probably create separate videos to cover those in later parts, but those are too detailed and too complex for this video. This video will just be an overview, so let's get started. So, just a general overview. There are several things you want to look at. First, the location of the masks in terms of their sprites. So the first one we want is sprite masks big, and this is obviously where all the mask sprites are. Here you see I've already replaced Tony with the Tony mask from Hotline Miami 2. This will just serve as this example. And but what you can do is you can basically replace any of these values with any mask that of your choice. So you can draw one or you modify one, whatever. Now you also want to make sure to change them in these other locations, which I'll mention, which I'll show you in a moment, which are sprite mask drop back, sprite mask drop front, and sprite masks. So sprite masks will basically control what the masks look like on top of your head in game. So as you can see, if I want to change Tony, I would go here, and as you can see, I've drawn the blood and stuff on his head. So for drop front, this is what it looks like if the mask were to drop off your head when you die. So again, just modify it. And same thing with drop back. This is the back of the mask, as you can see here. I haven't modified this because I don't know, but anyhow. Oh yes, and one other thing actually I'll talk about it momentarily. So the main location where all of the various code for controlling the mask behaviors will be located in object player mouse. So if we navigate there, in the step event. So, I'm going to talk about 3 abilities in this. I'm going to talk about Don Juan. I'm going to talk about Don Juan, which is lethal doors. I'm going to talk about Tony, which is killing punches, and Jake, which is killing throws. And I could also just briefly mention movement speed as well. So, what we can do is we want to find the location of where these things are, and then we want to basically, I'm going to explain them and I'm going to tell you how to change them. So the first thing we want to find is basically, we want to find a location where global.mask index equals 2. And the general format for this is, what's it called? Global.mask index equals, and then whatever your sprite number is. So this is not going to make much sense like this, but basically this denotes that the global variable mask index, which is defined elsewhere and you don't have to worry about because it's already defined, is equal to, and then this will be the sprite number of the mask. So if you go to sprite masks big again, or basically any of the other sprite sheets which have the masks in them, if you want Tony, for example, you would see 0, which is a sub-image here, 1, and 2. So for Tony, you would do global.mask index equals 2, for example. So that's that. And if for any of the others, for example, if you want, for example, Dennis, it will be global.mask index equals 6, and so on and so forth. Anyhow, so what we want to find is, first we want to see how Tony basically reacts when he's punching down enemies. So the location here, I'm going to clean this code up for a second. Give me a second. So basically, where we want to begin is with object enemy. So this defines a behavior with the object enemy. All this stuff we don't want to worry about. We want to start looking at... Sorry, not that with object enemy. It's a different one. Oh, sorry, yeah, up here. So basically, this line here denotes any kind of action that the player is doing when attacking. So if we drag this all along here, these are all like attacking things. And we want to find out where that behavior corresponds to the enemy. So it begins here with object this enemy, and this is basically saying that if you're attacking, so if the sprite index of the player meets with an object of the meets with the object enemy, then you do this happen. Then you do this, and this is saying that if the place meeting of the object player and an enemy, for example, is it basically, if they meet, then this will happen. So, for example, this first place, I've defined I basically already modified Tony so that he has his abilities from Hotline Miami 2. So here we have if object index equals object enemy fat. So basically, if the object index of object enemy equals object enemy fat, and the global mask index equals 2, so as you can see here, if the mask index is Tony, then you want to basically create this object fat knocked out, which I've created in a separate event, but you don't have to create. This is completely optional, and this will basically knock out the fat guy and then destroy him. Else, if it's an inspector, which the inspector being the fat police officers, or the fat police detectives, then you do the same thing, except you create an inspector instead of a fat guy. A lot of this collision stuff we won't worry about. So basically, where Tony's ability is defined primarily is this in like two different locations. So here you have my ID equals instance create XY object dead body. This is basically saying that if it meets a regular enemy that's not either a dog or a fat guy, then you're creating a dead body. So first the enemy object is if it's a dog patrol, and the sprite index of the object player is any one of these things. So if we scroll all the way to the right, we can see if object player dot sprite index equals sprite p attack punch. Now, if I were to just leave this in, what it would do is if I punched a dog with no matter what mask, so long as my player is punching, it will kill the dog. So we don't want that. We want it specifically to Tony. So instead of writing just that, we wanted to add a line here. So if we want to add parentheses or global.mask index equals 2 and object player, and basically we have to keep it in parentheses because this is one individual condition right here. So basically we have to meet these two conditions. We have to be wearing the Tony mask and we have to be punching. So we can copy and paste this over for the next part as well. Okay, so that handles that. And that will basically play a sound, which is sound hit and sound punch, and it'll choose a body for the dog. So here we handle the behavior for the dog. So this will generate a dead dog, and here we handle the behavior for the actual enemy. Because basically this is saying if the object of the enemy is a dog, then you want it to make this behavior for a dog, and you have this nested if statement, which basically controls that if it's a blunt or a cutting death. And then here, actually, I'll comment this. So this is regular mafia enemy types, and this is dog enemy type, and this is where we begin to create dead bodies. This first part is for blunt kills, and the second part is for cutting kills. And basically, you know it's for blunt kills because first you have this sound hit / play, but also if you look at all the sprite indexes, and you can do this on your own, indices, they're all blunt weapons, and they basically, this massive list right here doesn't contain any edged weapons like knives or anything, and it's the same thing here, so same applies. This script, if police, doesn't really matter that much. Basically, in the police levels, there are only two melee weapons. There's the punch attack, and there's a nightstick, since the police are only co-eds that respond to those two knife attacks. Or those two attacks, sorry, not two knife attacks. So you don't really want to mess with this code unless you're doing something more advanced, in which case, you probably wouldn't be watching this video anyways. So, anyhow. This will control slashing behavior for things like the sword, the axe, or the machete. Basically, what this does is instead of creating instead of creating just one body piece like it would do if you just were to hit the enemy with a knife or something, it creates two separate pieces. So it creates two different body parts. So if you have here, like for example, these two are pieced together. This would be the upper half. This would be the lower half. And anyhow, that's pretty much all self-explanatory, and that covers what the Tony mask for now. So now we're gonna get to the lethal throws. So that's Jake. Now Jake first is index 24. Now there's two ways we can go about this. The first thing we can do is we can basically think about what Jake's ability does, which is he throws an item, it hits an enemy, and the enemy dies. So we can, using that, we can just find the object by which we can map that behavior. So basically find the instance which controls how collisions between enemies or collisions between weapons and enemies work. But the easier way to do that would just be to search if global.mask index equals 24. So we'll do that. The actual object you'll see in a little bit. So you have here object weapon throw and step. So this object P vomit you don't have to worry about. So the step event of here will control how the weapon is how the weapon works in rotation. So within this code, this basically controls how the weapon will react when it hits an enemy. So in the find function, we can do global.mask index equals 24, and just search for the first instance, which doesn't exist. So we go back here, and step is 22. So at line 22, we see here. Actually, hold on, this is strange. Step action 1 at line 22. Huh, well that's interesting. It doesn't seem to be appearing here for whatever reason. I've never seen this before, and so you can just ignore this part. I'll show you what the actual code is. So the actual code, you have to go to object enemy, and what's it called? Hold on, I'm going to pause the video for a second here and basically resume it once I find it. Hey guys, so for some reason, it actually wasn't object weapon throw, but instead of being in line 22, it was line 25. I don't know why it returned that for the find event, but anyhow, it's actually here. So here, if global.mask index equals 24. Now, what we want to do is we basically want the same ability to be mapped, or multiple abilities to be mapped to the same mask. So in that case, the mask we want would be global.mask index equals 2, which is Tony. So here we have, with the object enemy, so this is the collision between the weapon thrown and the enemy. Now, if the mask index of the mask you're currently wearing is 24, then it will play these two sounds, and the enemy will die. So J killing throws. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to be saving this file, but just to demonstrate how you can combine multiple abilities, I'm going to be adding this ability to Tony's mask. So you would type it, or global.mask index equals 2. It's that simple. You really don't have to do anything else. And this will basically mean that if you're wearing either one of these masks, this effect will happen when the thrown weapon hits the actual enemy. All right. So that being said, now we want to look for the code for Don Juan. Now it's in the door object, so it's the door collision with the enemy. So if we format this for a second. So we want to look for global.mask index equals 4. This is basically Don Juan's mask, as we can see here. And what it does is, the code will basically, what if the player is wearing the mask and it hits an enemy. Originally, it's supposed to basically just knock out the enemy. So here, object create knockdown. So, but if you're wearing the mask, it will kill the enemy. So in order to map that ability to Tony, we can do or global.mask index equals 2. and that will also basically kill the player by taking the dead body, or by taking the enemy, creating a dead body, and assigning it a sprite, and destroying the actual enemy. So it's that easy, and then you have to do the same thing for object door H, which is a, what is it called? It's the other door, so it's the horizontal door, sorry, yeah. So, or global dot mask index equals 2. Now, there's those three abilities, which are the main abilities I said I would cover, and those are all assigned to Tony now, so he now has killing punches, killing throws, and killing door slams. We can also improve his movement speed by going to script movement speed, or script player move keyboard. And we can basically say that here, yeah, you see here if global mask index equals 5 and 16. Now, those correspond respectively to Graham the rabbit and Brandon the panther. So, but if we want, for example, one to correspond to Tony, we could add global.mask index equals 2, global.mask on equals 1. This doesn't really matter. This basically is checking to see if the mask is on. And you could change the movement speed to like something absurd, like 4, which is Brandon's movement speed. Now, Tony will also move ridiculously fast. I think that's about it, and we can test the map in a moment. First, let me, basically, in order to set, one thing you can do is set restrictions on how the, how the pickups work. So if you want a mask to be able to not pick up an object, you would go to Object Player Mouse and go to global right pressed, sorry. You go in here and you do execute code. So you see here that it redirects to script player pickup 2. Now you want to go into that. Okay, basically here, there are several places you want to look, or rather there's one place you want to look. So you want to see if the object, first place here, if the weapon that's being dropped is sorry, if you're attacking and there's a weapon dropped and the mask index does not equal 2, which basically means that this exclamation mark is used with no negation, you don't want the enemy to drop a weapon. So that's the first place you want to change here. And the second place you want to change, you can do a search for it. So, script player pickup. Yeah, basically, I think that's actually it. Yeah. So anyhow, we can test this in a moment. Let me just check to see what this code is. Yeah, we can test this code and we can see. Oh wait, we should probably. So I'll just test it across a number of different maps, so you can just see how these things work and yeah. So just wait for it to load. So, we can test it and push it because I know for certain that at the beginning there's a, what is it called? There's a guy at the door. So, for example, if we select Tony now, running into this guy should automatically kill him, which it does. There's no blood generated because, well, okay, yeah, the angle of it is weird because we haven't necessarily coded that in, but that's just a matter of technicality. Now we should also retain Tony's killing punches, which we do. And killing throws, for some reason I can't pick up weapons right now. It's just gonna be, but that's something specific because I messed around with the code for a little bit. But if you follow my instructions, you should be able to do the same thing. So, anyhow, that being said, the last thing I want to talk about is how to add weapons to the player's beginning inventory. So, in that case, we want to go to somewhere called script, and we want to do script get mask powers. Basically, this one controls special instances. For example, mask 9 is, I think, the elephant. Mask 21 is Oscar the Walrus, who can survive 2 bullets. Energy is basically the life. It's a Swedish word for the amount of life you have. If you're mask 23, you start with the drill, so that's Carl. 3 is Aubrey, which controls basically the weapons that spawn within the game. They can they automatically become guns. Here, if you're Charlie, which is mask 17, the weapons that are spawning in game will become like specialized melee weapons. Global.mask 6 equals you start with a knife, so that's Dennis. And if you're Richter, you can start with the silenced Uzi. So what you want to do is you want to edit in 2 places. For example, if I wanted, let's just say Richard to start with a silenced Uzi with 10,000 ammunition, for example, I would type if global.mask index equals 0, and I would just copy this. Or actually, instead of the silenced Uzi, we can make it a shotgun just to demonstrate the point. And we can set the ammo is equal to 60. So now he has a shotgun with 60 rounds, or yeah. And that's Richard. Now, if we wanted to, so basically actually I should probably explain this. Basically what this is doing is, it's checking to see what mask you're wearing, and then depending on what mask you're wearing, the sprite index of your player is going to be sprite P, which is what's it called, or sprite P walk rather, which is just like the standard animation for walking with a weapon, and then plus whatever the name of the weapon is. So you can get a reference of all these things right here. So you have the sprite P walk, whatever. Oh, actually, let's make it an MP5 just for hilarities. And we'll make it start with like, I don't know, like 6,880, even better. And then generally for guns, you definitely need this ammo modifier. For melee weapons, for example, like here you don't. Here he includes the ammo indicator, but you can see that from Carl, you really don't need it. So and then the other place you want to go is called script animation end. Or, sorry, script player animation end. Yeah, there you go. So basically what this controls is what happens when the animation of the player ends as it clearly says. And if you don't update this script, then basically the player will spawn with no weapon in their hands, because the animation of the person of Jacket putting on his mask will not produce any kind of weapon. So what you can do is you can just take the code you made before and just copy and paste it in, which I didn't do, but I'll do now. So script get mask powers. And so I can take this and just copy and paste it down below here where all the other stuff is. So you just want to make sure it's below global.mask on. Oh, I didn't want to start the game. Shit. Okay, we can test our OP Richard now. So if we go into a level like, I don't know, like, I guess neighbors, yeah. And we select Richard, we should start with an MP5 with a ridiculous amount of ammunition, so, which we clearly do. And as you can see here, it's kind of blotted out by the by my recording device, but as you can see here, we can just like just hold down the button and bullet rain. So, and it persists across different floors, so there's no need to worry about that. It works with human shield as well, because the human, so you don't have to worry about that. Anyhow, I'm awful at this game, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. There's definitely a couple of things I'm missing in terms of details, but I think in general, I've covered what I tried to set out to. And if there's any questions or anything you have, please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Good night.